we're gonna be reading some creepy Uber stories. I get so nervous reading stories like this because I will never take an Uber again. But today we ask the question, Uber drivers of Reddit, what is the creepiest, weirdest, and or most bizarre passenger experience you've had? My second night driving ever. 2 a.m. pulled up to a clearing in the woods in the middle of Denville, New Jersey. I had to go partially off-road to get to the spot. I don't even know how it showed up on my map. I pulled up to a spot that looked like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. There's a busted old barn that's dry rotted and falling apart, and there is the rear bucket of a landscaping truck hanging from a tree filled with beer cans. I mean filled. All of a sudden, I see my rider come out of the woods, chugging a beer with his other hand in the air, signaling to me. He gets in and doesn't say a word. We start driving and I go, "How was your night, man?" just to break the awkwardness. He responds very normally. "Good, man, just hung out with some friends at the bar, got really drunk and met some chicks. Then we all went out into the parking lot and dropped acid." Oh, wow. Now I'm wondering if this dude is hallucinating that I'm Satan taking him to hell in my Honda Pilot demon chariot. "So how did you end up in the woods, man? There are no bars near where I picked you up." He was completely silent. Didn't say a word. I glanced in the rearview mirror and he was dead staring into my fucking soul. I looked back at the road. At this point, we were in a pretty well-populated area, so I felt safer. He was silent for the remaining 14 minutes of the ride until about 2 minutes from his destination. He asked me if we could stop at a convenience store on the way. I obliged, and he asked if I wanted anything. I declined, and as I dropped him off, he handed me a really nice $10 tip and said, "Thanks, Maria." I'm a dude. Yeah, if I looked in my rearview mirror and he's just staring at me, staring into my eyes, into my soul through the mirror, oh my God. Picked up a girl at a motel and she was going to another motel. She was a prostitute. She said she wanted me to pull up to the room and she would give me $10 to wait 5 minutes. If she came up within 5 minutes, we would leave and go somewhere else. She said she was nervous about this John. She gives me $10, goes in, comes out like 2 minutes later and asks me to take her to Waffle House. She offered me a $20 tip and asked me if I wanted to eat with her. I said sure, since it was like 4 a.m. and the night was dying down anyways. Left her at the Waffle House and went home. Had some interesting stories. That's like weirdly sweet. Just like hanging out at Waffle House after work. Was driving an afternoon in the late summer. I live in a beach town, so it was perfect weather and people everywhere. Went to a pickup and saw a guy and 2 women. Picked them up and they clearly had been day drinking, just laughing and having a good time. It was a husband and wife and the wife's cousin. They were all clearly sexed up a little from the booze, joking about having sex, the husband and wife. The guy makes a joke to his wife's cousin saying, "If I had met you first, we'd be married." Then the wife said to the cousin, "If you weren't my cousin, I would let you join in when we get home." The guy and the cousin started laughing their asses off and the guy said to the cousin, "I wouldn't mind if you didn't." They all laughed like crazy until I got to their house a few blocks away. This was only maybe a 5-minute drive. Between the fare and tip I made about $7. Was definitely worth it. I'll gladly drive them again if I see them this summer. That would make me so violently uncomfortable. About a year ago, I was driving a little before midnight and picked up someone in a somewhat rundown part of town. The guy gets in the back and didn't respond to my greeting. He was wearing a really awkward black coat of some sort which had pink fuzz lined on the shoulders and arms. The first thing I noticed was an absolutely overbearing stench of straight up shit. I started to sniff and cough because it was so powerful and rancid. He began to quietly snicker, and I could see a grin form on his face with the little lights I had in the back of my car. He had a massive nose and very rubbery features. I said, "Hey man, what's with the smell? It's making me sick." He looked up in the rearview mirror and I could see his eyes were bloodshot. He was staring at me in the mirror with this creepy smile. He softly said, "Just open a window and keep driving." He began digging in his backpack and pulled a phone out, turned the flashlight on, and pointed it at his chest. He opened his coat, and I saw what looked like some type of writing and symbols of mud all over his chest. He was holding his phone with one hand and picking this mud off of his chest. Then he loudly barked, "Have you ever been to a scat party? If not, then shut your damn mouth." Just then we rolled up to a red light, he cackled loudly and ran out of the car into the woods. What is going on? I was completely dumbfounded, in disbelief. I just got out and looked in the back seat where I found his backpack and this dried shit that he had been picking off his chest. I opened the backpack and it was full of shit-covered clothes. I immediately went home, cleaned my car, got super drunk and took a shower, trying to forget everything that had just happened. Well, I don't think I want to know what a scat party is. I'm good. This is from a few months ago. Still gives me shakes. Went to pick up in Austin in New Jersey. It was about 2 a.m., so it was my last ride. He's a little far out, but not awful. I'm pretty rural anyway. I meet him at his spot near the woods, and he's in some sort of gown, almost like a graduation gown, but it wasn't black. He then waves, and 4 fucking kids, around 10, come out in solid white with another person in a gown just like his, and they all climb in. They're all silent other than Austin, who's giving a monologue on the importance of some animal they were with. After about 10 minutes, I look back. I shit you not, every single kid was glaring at me in my rearview mirror. All freaking 4. Immediately, Austin asks to halt the ride and asks for a new drop-off, about 2 minutes away. Pretty confident the other gent in the gown was staring at me too, but I couldn't see his eyes. I tremble and ask him to update the app. He says he won't, as it's a discreet location. I'm shivering and do that trick where you call a friend and let them listen in. I get to the location and they all pile out except for that Austin guy, who looks at me dead in the eyes, then at my upside down phone, then back at my eyes. He then got out and went into the woods. What the fuck? No, but seriously, what? What are you guys doing? What are you doing? Where are you going? And if the location is that secretive, drive yourself, goddamn. I drove a cab in the 90s. This stuff doesn't even rate on a week-to-week basis. I had a guy get in my cab once with a large woman's purse full of crack cocaine. I don't mean he had a lot of crack, I mean he had a 1-gallon Ziploc bag full of crack stuffed into a giant woman's handbag. Big spender though. He tipped me in powder cocaine. Do you think I told the police? Hell no, because in the 90s, that's how people got murdered. I had a stripper get into a fight with a prostitute/drug dealer over drug money that the stripper had hidden inside of her vagina. I had a passenger that decided my car would look better without its rear windows, so he laid down in the back seat and started kicking them out. I had to call the dispatcher on a CB to call the cops because I didn't have a cell phone, and then he attacked me. I had to take off my seatbelt, crawl out of the passenger door to get away from him, at which point he climbed over the seat and proceeded to try and hotwire my cab until the cops arrived and maced him through the busted out back window. He screamed bloody murder like he was on fire and pissed himself and my driver's seat. I had a drunk guy try to rob me with a knife for the money his friend, who was in the car, just paid me for the fare. The friend gets upset at knife-wielding guy, apologizes, and tells me not to mind him because he's just crazy. The friend manages to talk the guy into getting out of the cab and begs me not to call the police on them because he can't afford to go back to jail. Narr. And that's not even what made me decide to quit. That one was the time a pregnant hooker got in my car. Told me she had HIV and that she needed to get away from where she was but had nowhere to go. Not necessarily in that order. I drove to a donut shop, went inside, I got a phone book and called every church listed in the phone book, and not a single one of them would do anything for her. That's the only thing I could think of doing. I quit because I couldn't handle seeing so much misery every day, and nobody seemed to be doing a damn thing about it. Wait, that is awful. Yeah, I would say that's a very valid reason to quit. I genuinely can't even imagine what other stories you have. Not an Uber, but I used to drive a taxi in a semi-rural area. Many of the customers were regulars, so usually quite uneventful. However, it was near a few resorts which were quite upmarket, so the weirdos were generally of higher class. Picked up a couple from a wedding reception for a long trip. One rule I had was to let the passengers initiate conversation. So besides the usual pleasantries, nothing, which is unusual for a couple. I heard some kissing, pretty common, then some movement, and before long I realized these two were fucking. I said, I don't mean to be disrespectful, but if I pull over and stop the meter, I can get you both a towel. And they're like, why? We aren't doing anything. So I said, okay, well, I'm pretty relaxed with what's going on here, and legally you can't drink in a cab, but I'll allow it as long as the person takes the empties. If you want to continue your activities, I need to give you a towel. If there's any mess, I have to charge a cleaning fee on top of what's already going to be a long fare otherwise. After a few seconds, I hear, all right then. So I get it, pass it over and get driving again. $120 fare, the guy gives me $150 and tells me to keep it. They weren't nasty. I think they thought they were being secretive. That's disgusting and insane. They're like, sorry, I have to give you a towel. Like, I know what you're doing. Oh my god. So I had a few weeks off between jobs a few years ago, and I decided to try Uber. The worst experience was at 3 a.m. I picked up 2 couples from the stretch of bars downtown after some big country concert. The guys were super nice. The one in the front seat even had the same first name as me, and we were chatting. Turns out that the guys met the girls at the bar, and they were all heading back to the girls' hotel. About halfway through the ride, one girl decides she wants McDonald's, and since it was her Uber, it was the guys, I had to take her to McDonald's. The other girl said she didn't want McDonald's, she just wanted to get laid. Pfft. They keep arguing and I keep talking to the guy in the front seat until the guy in the back seat tells me I need to pull over. I look back and see the girls fighting in my back seat. I pull over and we get the girls out. Somehow they got loose and started fighting again in the middle of the street. I called the cops, and by the time the cops got there, they have separated again. McDonald's girl tried to bang her friend's head against the concrete. I tell the cop that it's McDonald's girl that's the aggressor, so he goes to arrest her and she starts resisting, so I help the cop restrain her. Once we get her in the back seat, she starts trying to kick the windows out. So we get her out of the car because the cop wanted to hog tie her. Finally, 2 other cops show up and I'm relieved of my duties. She just kept yelling about how she's a lawyer and she wasn't read her Miranda rights. I turned off the app, took the 2 guys home, and never gave another ride. But they do have to read her Miranda rights, don't they? Like, is she wrong? I have a passenger story about Uber. This was the middle of the day. We got in and the car reeked of weed. The driver started the conversation off by saying how he would never get into a stranger's car because that's how you get murdered. We laughed and made some jokes, but he continued on and on about how you never know who has an axe in their trunk. We eventually just got quieter and quieter because he kept bringing up murder. There were 4 of us, so I wasn't too scared because I figured he wouldn't be able to kill all of us during our 8-minute trip. We arrived safely and I gave him 0 stars because the car smelled like weed. I was also afraid he would find me and kill me if I told on him for the murder stuff. Same. No, like literally same. Like 0 stars, your car smelled, nothing else, I promise. I took a guy to a nearby town across the river at 3 a.m. When he got out, he came to the driver's window and said, "Ever see Pure Evil? I am the reincarnation of Jeffrey Dahmer." Then he walked away down the dark street. I was the passenger, not the driver. I was in Rome, Italy, and I got an Uber with a middle-aged Italian dude. The whole way through, he had his window down and was yelling at every single person walking by. Even worse, this motherfucker pulls to the side and has a 15-minute-long conversation with a random dude at a sidewalk 20 minutes from my hotel. I got my shit out myself, walked up this long-ass slope to the hotel. This motherfucker parks at the very bottom of the slope. I paid him $40 or euros, I don't know, and was pissed for the rest of the day. Yeah, that's honestly kind of insane. Why was he talking to a random man for 15 minutes? Like the meter's running. Picked up a dude and his girlfriend in a well-known bar district early evening during the summer. Dude is fine, but girlfriend is wasted. I'm talking slurring speech, can't walk, etc. Dude tells me where he's going and I start the trip. As soon as I take off, she says she wants to go back. Dude keeps telling her they're going home, but she keeps saying, "Go back, go back, go back." Then she starts saying she doesn't feel well. I tell her if she feels like she's going to throw up, let me know so I can pull over and let her out. She says pull over, so I do. She gets out and then just starts cussing me out for no reason and kicks at my door and the side of the car, all while the dude is trying to hold her back. I take off and I leave them there. First 1-star review I ever gave a passenger. No, I can't even lie, that's like, I've done something so similar to that. I don't drink anymore. Me and my friends went to Nashville like a couple years ago. We got into an Uber and I was blacked out. I don't remember like any of this, and my friend's describing it to me. It sounds like a horror movie. I'm blacked out. I can barely walk. I'm in the Uber with my friends. I think I tell them like I have to throw up. I don't know. So the Uber driver pulls over. I get out, I throw up, and then I look back at them. I'm like on the side of the road in the dark in the fucking woods. I don't know. And I look back at them in the van and I go, "What are you doing?" And my friends were like, "Waiting for you to throw up." And I was like, "What are you doing?" And they were like, "You have to get back in the car." And I was like, "Why?" They're like, "We're not back at the Airbnb yet. Like you're in the middle, you are in the middle of nowhere, puking on the side of the road. Get in the fucking car." And I guess I just got in the car, like nothing happened. I don't know. And I probably have 50,000 other stories just like that. I'm sorry to every Uber driver I've ever had. I used to drive a taxi in an oil boom town, and I have a few weird / scary experiences. The one that stands out though is my favorite / least favorite. I got a call way out of town at a trailer park. It was a small grouping of trailers they used as a man camp. It was way out on dirt back roads and the guy calling had to give me directions the whole way. I was on the phone with him the entire time. I finally find the place. He says, "It's the trailer at the end, the only one with the porch light on, and a camper beside the trailer. I'm in the camper. You need to pull up as close as you can so I can hop onto the car and we can get the fuck out." He said hop onto the car. I tell him I can't do that. There's like 6 cars in the driveway, so it's all blocked off. And I don't know if you know this, but there's a group of people standing outside your door. To which he replies, "What? Oh fuck, oh fuck." It's about this time these guys see me and I hear one say, "Oh good, it's not a cop." So they all come over to my car. It's 3 a.m. by the way. They're saying, "What the fuck are you doing here? Nobody called you. We need you to leave." This dude was obviously tweaking because his pupils were huge from what I can see. After some talking, I get the guy to admit that Someone did call, but he's not allowed to leave. The dude starts pushing his head through my window, and I start to back up slowly and drive down the road calling my customer back. The other guys run back to the camper and start manhandling the door off the hinges. As the phone connects, the door comes open, and I hear the phone hit the ground, and this dude is screaming, "Bloody murder, help me, help me." I had no gun and gave my pepper foam away 2 days prior to a girl dealing with a stalking problem, so I wasn't going in there. I hung up, called 911, I drove out to the main road and told them the mile marker. It felt like an eternity waiting for the cops because I was worried of being followed. I was watching the only exit I knew about like a hawk. The cops finally show and follow me back to the trailer. I must have been going 90 with the cops following me down these dirt roads. Anyways, I get there, the cops start snooping around and must have spotted something through the window because they start kicking down doors and wrangling people. They had me wait way down the road, and after a while a cop came and told me, "There's a hell of a lot more than a taxi ride out here. You should just head back to town. We will call you for a statement." That was the worst one, but I've got more. I started when I was 19 and have seen some weird stuff. What was going on? I feel like we're missing so much of that story, but I guess maybe you don't even know? Because why would they tell you? I don't know. Like, I'm just imagining people with fucking pitchforks on fire, like trying to get into this man's trailer. What did he do? Briefly drove for Uber a few years ago. Decided to try my hand at the airport. Fares from airports could be as short as take me to the hotel 3 miles away, or as long as I live 4 counties away. Got a 4-county trip to a college town on a Friday night. Should be good pay, and it was. But this guy, mid-20s, wearing a brown leather jacket, jeans, and no bags. Trip starts out fairly normal. Have a good flight, vacation, etc. Dude says he just got back from Istanbul. Red flags start popping up. No bags, just came back from 2 months in Turkey. Had clearly just shaved before returning. I'd gotten out of the army a few weeks before, 3 deployments, suddenly remembered some briefings about possible Americans radicalizing and training with insurgents. Guy comments on my combat engineer decal on my window, talks about how we shouldn't be there, about how you guys are interfering with the natural order. HUD is now covered with red flags. He starts talking about how he spent his time learning abroad with new friends and gaining important skills. I asked if it was coursework related since he had mentioned being in college. I suppose it involves his college in a roundabout way. Oh, hell no. The rest of the trip is mostly silence, drop him at the address he gave, drive a little way down the street to a parking lot, and I call 911. They apparently took their counterterrorism packet seriously. Got a call from an alphabet soup agency the next day asking if I had recorded any of the conversation. Emailed them the dashcam footage with audio. They told me they would handle it, and thanks for the info. Yeah, that one, I also feel like I need more information. Who was he and what was he doing? I don't really even understand half the things I read in there. What? Is he gonna hurt someone? That's all I have for now. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys have any creepy Uber stories, whether you were the driver or a passenger, and you want to share them with me in the community, I will have my subreddit linked down below. Kinda glad those were driver stories with like a sprinkle of passenger stories, because I feel okay taking an Uber after reading those. And I feel even better knowing that I don't drink anymore. I won't be a story on this subreddit. Sometimes I wonder if my story's out there somewhere. Story about me. But okay, I'm gonna go. I love you guys so much, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.